So 12 years ago, I was taken on by the Methodist Church as then a Fresh Expressions community worker. And the project that I was working on was called Pass and Cross Initiative. And the idea of that project was to explore new ways of being church in a situation that we find ourselves. What grew out of that over a period of time was a separation of a charity, Pass and Cross Initiative projects, which does the face work, if you want, the kind of the social justice work, the social inclusion work, and then alongside that, the kind of the community chaplaincy role that is the share ministry part of my pioneer ministry. And the two are distinct and separate, but they're constantly overlapping and constantly working from each other and alongside each other and growing together. I think it's about that, being able to work with people through their isolation, through their loneliness. It's about being able to give people value. Quite often, in the 12 years that we've been here, we've come across people who have literally come and said this is one of the few safe places they can come to. This is one of the few places they come and feel loved and valued. This is one of the few places where they can feel that they're not maybe what they feel labelled with the rest of their lives, where they're just them. And I think providing that kind of space is a really important role for Christians. It's certainly a really important role that we set out for the charity, because it's about social inclusion and it's about social justice. So the food that we offer at Food Hub is very similar to what we used to do when we were a more traditional food bank. So people go away with their dried goods, their pasta, their bread, their tins of food. We also have fresh food on offer now as well, which is a bonus. So they go away with a range of those products, usually 6 fresh, 6 ambient. And the difference really between how we do it now and how we did it as a food bank is now people are invited to make a donation of that food. So they're taking a part in sustaining that service. So every week we raise enough money to pay for the food the following week. So it is very much a two-way process rather than as just giving food to people as a kind of passive charitable act. It's made a big difference to how people see it in terms of dignity and how, again, that sense of being valued. So rather than just being a recipient, they're now partners and we're doing it in solidarity together rather than us doing it to them. And I think that's often a problem for charities. It's often a problem for church, that we seem to be doing things to people rather than trying to do things alongside and with people.
Gets me out of the house and I like to help out, and they've helped me through my tough times. When I lost my partner a couple of years ago, they were here for me and continue to be, so I give my time back. And I find it rewarding, although I was poorly last week, so I couldn't come, but I do like coming.
So we also have sessions on the community allotment where we have 4 plots, and again, that's not just about the growing of food, though that's important, they're allotments. That's also our building community in that space. And again, in that space, as well as the charities work of doing the social inclusion work, we do also do the pioneer ministry work. So I've held communion on the allotments, we have seasonal celebrations on the allotments. We do all those kinds of things in tandem and around each other.
I come to Mount Tabor on a Tuesday morning when they have this drop-in session, just to talk to people, to help build relationships, to get to know people. I think because for me, church is about building relationships. So church is every day, it's not just Sunday. We come on a Sunday to worship God, but as Christians we need to be building relationships with the community and to letting everybody know about the good news.
Yes, well, we get people who wouldn't come to church, who don't come to church, coming to prayers, without a doubt. We get people asking for prayer more often. We get people who are on a faith or spiritual journey, however you might describe that, both on the allotments and here, and we'll have those conversations regularly. Now, the question I think is, and the big question for the church is, what our expectations of those people are. So, is our expectation of success of that process being that they eventually become members of the Methodist Church, or is our measure of success for those people that they actually develop a closer relationship with God? And I think that's a really interesting question for all of us. And I'm not saying there's a right and wrong answer, or one single answer, but it's certainly the kind of conversations that we end up having with people.
because it's a friendly atmosphere. We laugh, we cry, but you know, it's much better than being on your own.
I think two things. I think number one, trust God, trust the Spirit, trust that if you're doing something intentionally and openly, with knowing that your faith is at the core of it, then God will use that. And secondly, I think the other important part is to be brave about it. To not think that somehow you have to have all the answers. To not think that somehow what you are going to do is solve the problem. We are not there to be saviour. There is a saviour, and it's not us. And we need to accept that we need to simply do what we can do through love, through grace, with respect, and in valuing people, and not think that we always have to be the answer.